So Jeb Bush went on NPR, and he discussed how he's getting his ass handed to him in the presidential race, and he has an interesting scapegoat to blame for Donald Trump and the rise of Trump. He said, quote, "I would argue that Donald Trump is in fact a creature of Barack Obama." Yeah, of course, I know. But for Barack Obama, Donald Trump's effect would not be nearly as strong as it is. We're living in a divided country right now, and we need political leaders rather than continuing to divide as both President Obama and Donald Trump do to unite us. Okay. First of all, Jeb Bush is a one-trick pony. He's terrible at formulating political arguments. He's terrible at the game of politics. He doesn't know how to argue effectively. He doesn't know how to go on the offense in an aggressive and convincing way. He's lost. He's lost. He's lost in the political winds. He's like, what do I think people want to hear? Okay, let me say it in a really creepy way and hope that they believe it, hope they buy it. Well, they're not buying it, and this is why you're polling at negative 12%. And for Christ's sake, to Jeb Bush's handlers, his staffers, can you come up with a good argument against Trump for him? I mean, it's already too little too late. He's done. He's not going to win the nomination. But, I mean, anything. Look at what Bernie Sanders just said to him the other day, and it worked. He kept hammering him because Trump literally called for lower wages. He was asked a question about minimum wage protesters who were calling for $15 an hour, and he's like, no, this isn't good. We need to compete. We need lower wages. Wages are too high. That's what he said. Wages are too high. That was in the debate. If you're smart at politics, all you have to do is keep repeating that like Bernie Sanders did, and then what happened? Donald Trump cowered and backpedaled and said, did I say that? I meant the opposite. I meant wages are too low. In fact, he put that in a tweet. Wages are too low. Total contradiction of what he said before. Why? Somebody smart put pressure on him for saying something stupid. He retweeted a neo-Nazi graphic with made-up numbers about black crime. Why don't you hammer him on that? Why don't you talk about that? How do we let that go? He spoke about how we need to target the families of ISIS. So target civilians in the Middle East. He said we should torture, quote, even if it doesn't work. There's so much material that he's giving you to attack him with. He goes after corruption where he says, oh, this is terrible. All these guys are puppets of the billionaires. He fails to mention that he went begging to those billionaires beforehand. They rejected him. And then he turned around and went to the public and said, I'm running with my own money and these politicians are puppets of the billionaires. He begged to be a puppet and he got rejected. Where's your argument on that? The best Jeb Bush can come up with is, man, I blame Barack Obama for Donald Trump. No, I blame you for Donald Trump more than anybody. Now, why do I say that? Because Jeb Bush is the antithesis of Donald Trump, and you see how he's polling in that Republican base. He's so pro-establishment, and he's such a standard elitist politician, and he's from the good sperm club. He was lucky enough to be born into the Bush family, which is why he has these opportunities to begin with. He's rich. He has a silver spoon in his mouth. He was given all the opportunity in the world, and he represents the establishment. He doesn't represent the people. He's not confident. There's no saving grace behind his campaign. So Donald Trump comes along. For all of his flaws, he's arrogant. He's confident. People like that. And he says everything at the same time. He contradicts himself nonstop, so people just hear what they want. The Republican base is projecting onto him what they want to hear. So he ends up doing tremendously well, not just because of what he does, but because the people who are running against him are fucking Scott Walker, who's never said an interesting thing in his entire life. He dropped out after 2.5 seconds in the Republican race. People like Jeb Bush, people like Marco Rubio, who's an establishment puppet, who's hanging in there. He might be the establishment fallback candidate. He might be the Mitt Romney or the John McCain of 2016. So he's still hanging in there. But it's just nonstop fakeness. It's all sleazy, corny, cheesy politician act 101. So if you want to blame anybody, blame yourself. You know, I get it. Donald Trump's on the rise because people are tired of the establishment, and yes, that includes Democrats. But Jeb Bush, you're part of that fucking problem. You're from the Bush family. And he's like, oh yeah, Donald Trump, I blame Obama for it. It's unbelievable. Jeb, please, for your own sake, I'm going to need you to stop running.